John Ross, the relentless voice who fought the Trail of Tears. In the shadow of the Appalachian Mountains, where Cherokee towns once thrived among rivers and forests, a quiet leader emerged. His pen was as mighty as his resolve, and his voice, measured, diplomatic, and determined, echoed through the halls of Congress and the camps of his people. John Ross, the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, spent his life fighting an impossible battle to shield his people from the tidal wave of removal that would become known as the Trail of Tears. A life between two worlds. Born in 1790 near present-day Alabama, John Ross was the product of two worlds. His mother was Cherokee, his father a Scottish trader. Raised in a bilingual household and educated in white schools, Ross learned early how to bridge cultures. This rare skill would become his greatest asset and his greatest burden in a country that saw native lands as obstacles to be swept aside. As a young man, Ross quickly earned the respect of Cherokee elders and American officials alike. He was sharp, eloquent, and deeply principled. Ross helped draft the Cherokee Nation's first written constitution, envisioning a government rooted in both tradition and the rule of law. He also co-founded the Cherokee Phoenix, the first Native American newspaper, to give his people a unified voice in a world that so often spoke for them. The fight for Cherokee sovereignty. The 1820s and 1830s were years of mounting pressure. White settlers, hungry for land and gold, streamed into Cherokee territory. Despite ironclad treaties guaranteeing their homeland, the Cherokee Nation was targeted for removal by state and federal officials. Ross, now principal chief, led diplomatic missions to Washington, arguing that the Cherokee were a sovereign nation whose rights must be honored. Ross's approach was measured and strategic. He believed in the power of law, negotiation, and the written word. As president of the Cherokee National Council, he organized petitions, sent delegations, and lobbied Congress. He traveled countless miles, meeting with presidents and lawmakers, always insisting, "We are not subjects, we are a nation." Betrayal and the Treaty of New Echota. But Ross's greatest trial came not from outside enemies, but from within. A small faction of Cherokee leaders, believing removal was inevitable, signed the Treaty of New Echota in 1835. This agreement, negotiated without the consent or knowledge of Ross or the majority of the Cherokee, ceded all Cherokee lands east of the Mississippi to the U.S. in exchange for land in present-day Oklahoma. Ross was stunned. He branded the treaty a fraud, gathering 16,000 Cherokee signatures on a petition opposing it, more than 90% of the nation. Yet the U.S. government, eager to claim the land, ignored the outcry. President Andrew Jackson turned a deaf ear to Ross's pleas, stating bluntly that enforcement would proceed whether the Cherokee liked it or not. Imprisonment and the Trail of Tears. Ross did not give up. He spent 2 years fighting the treaty's legitimacy, risking his own safety to delay removal. For his efforts, he was imprisoned by U.S. authorities, separated from his family and his people in a time of crisis. In 1838, the forced exodus began. Under armed guard, thousands of Cherokee men, women, and children were marched west over thousands of miles, in what would become known as the Trail of Tears. Disease, hunger, and exposure claimed more than 4,000 lives, including Ross's own wife, Kwati, who died of pneumonia before reaching Oklahoma. Devastated but undeterred, Ross led his people through the ordeal, sharing their suffering and keeping hope alive. A chief in exile. Even in exile, John Ross refused to let the Cherokee Nation dissolve. He became chief of the newly reconstituted United Cherokee Nation in Indian Territory, determined to rebuild from the ashes. He led the creation of new institutions, schools, courts, a tribal council, laying the groundwork for recovery and resilience. Ross continued his advocacy in Washington, fighting for compensation, land rights, and fair treatment for his people. He never stopped believing that justice was possible, even as the nation that had wronged him moved on. The enduring legacy. John Ross died in 1866, still serving as chief. His legacy is not of victory, but of endurance. He remains a symbol of principled resistance, of a leader who fought every inch for his people, using every tool at his disposal: law, diplomacy, and, when all else failed, the power of steadfast example. Today, the story of John Ross and the Trail of Tears is one of the most powerful chapters in American history. It is a reminder that justice often comes at a terrible cost, but also that leadership, courage, and dignity can shine even in the darkest of times. John Ross's voice, quiet but unyielding, reminds us that even when the world turns away, it is possible to stand for what is right. His fight was not just for his generation, but for all who would come after, to remember, to honor, and to continue the struggle for justice and sovereignty.